Okay, here it is. This is just a preview video. I'm going to call it right now. Lords of Exile is my 2024 game of the year. But Jason, that's my name by the way, Jason, it's only February, man. You're probably jumping the gun a little bit on this one. I really don't think I am. I've given this some thought, and I will be stunned. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I will be stunned if on December 31st, this is not still my game of the year. I know that my tastes in games are uncommon, and judging by my relatively small number of subscribers, I'm guessing that, a lot of my listeners' tastes in games are, relatively uncommon. But look, the only possible competition, for me at least, that this game could possibly have this year would be if, and I do mean if, Curse of the Moon 3, which as far as I know is not even a thing yet, but if Curse of the Moon 3 or Metal Slug Tactics, which is another game I've been looking forward to for years now, I think. Anyway, if one of those two ever comes out this year, then, yes, this game would have some competition. But even then, it wouldn't necessarily be, a flat-out victory. It might wind up being a tie. And yes, there are some obvious visual and thematic similarities between Lords of Exile and Curse of the Moon, and it would be reasonable for somebody to look at a screenshot of Lords of Exile and think, that it might be a new Circle of the Moon game. But Lords of Exile doesn't share the name, the lore, or the developers with Curse of the Moon. So it is definitely its own thing. But then that kind of brings you to the question of, is this some cheap feeling, generic, retro cash grab? No. This game is an absolutely genuine love letter to both Classic-vania and Curse of the Moon. And honestly, this is my favorite game to come out since the first Curse of the Moon. Lords of Exile is relatively simple, yet challenging. I said simple, not easy. There's a difference. This game is more straightforward than even the first Curse of the Moon. In Lords of Exile, from what I've seen so far, and I've gotten to level 4 of 8, which is why this is a preview, not a review. But from what I've seen in Lords of Exile, there are no branching paths, just one character and a linear set of 8 stages. Now, I do understand that there's a second character. I'm guessing you probably unlock her after you finish the game once. I don't know that for a fact. I didn't do a lot of research online. I'm just playing the game and relaying to you what that experience was like for me. But yeah, so there's a linear set of 8 stages, and I found that there's really like a rare purity here as far as the game design. It's simple, it's pure, and that's all you need, really, provided that the execution is on point, and it 100% is in Lords of Exile. The controls are on point, as you would expect from the lineage of its inspirations, and every death that I've experienced so far in this game feels like it was absolutely my fault. And you will likely be dying a lot on your first playthrough, at the very least. This is not a super easy game. Between this and the first Curse of the Moon, I feel like this is a bit harder. It's not Valfaris levels of difficulty so far, but it is a tough game. Though Lords of Exile does feature a good number of fairly spaced out checkpoints. It doesn't keep track of lives or continues, and instead you always just restart at the most recent checkpoint, unless you quit your game and come back later, in which case you have to restart the level from the beginning. Not a huge deal. That seems very fair. Also, Lords of Exile does feature knockback. However, it is reduced I would say, from something like Castlevania or Ninja Gaiden, in that, well, you simply just, you don't fly back as far. And so it's like, okay, I suffered a penalty, but it's a reasonable penalty, not a cheap bullshit penalty. So in terms of checkpoints and the consequences of dying, I feel like Lords of Exile is between a traditional action platforming game like Classic-vania and a precision platformer like the AVGN games, in that you never seem to start too far back, at least so far. That gives you the constant feeling of, okay, I can do this. Like, one more try, which is it's honestly that, what I just described, the one more try feeling, one of my favorite feelings in all of video games. Anyways, I feel that the developers of Lords of Exile have learned from every similar game that has come before it and refined that style a bit further. Or at the very least, their interpretation of this style is absolutely equal but different to what are, in my opinion, some of the greatest games ever crafted. Also, Lords of Exile, compared to Castlevania, added great cinema scenes a la Ninja Gaiden on the NES or Infernax, which I have a review for on the channel, for the Switch. Also, you gain new abilities after every level. So in that way, it's a bit of a hybrid between Curse of the Moon and Mega Man, or Castlevania and Mega Man, I guess you could say. So they're introducing new mechanics as you enter stages that were specifically designed to take advantage of and test your implementation of those upgrades. And that concept really, it seems like game design 101, but it's just executed so well here. Onto the graphics, I mean, they speak for themselves. They're, Castlevania 1 or Curse of the Moon style graphics. In the blurb on the eShop, they do reference 16-bit visuals, as if acknowledging that Lords of Exile maybe couldn't quite run on an NES. Although it definitely, like, any exemptions of its ability to run on an NES are subtle, I would say, because the game certainly visually, the game absolutely takes after the style of a classic NES game. Now, and then the music. Holy crap, the music in this game. If you like classic 8-bit chiptunes, a la, can throw those names out there again, Castlevania and the 8-bit Ninja Gaiden games, if you're into that, this is fire. It's awesome. This, in fact, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say that the chiptunes in Lords of Exile are better than most of the songs in either of the Curse of the Moon games. They're pretty top tier chiptunes. So for what they were going for with this project, I would give the audio a 10. Flat out, and just to give you an idea of the pedigree of the developers involved in this game, the infamous Yuzo Koshiro is featured on the soundtrack along with a couple of other artists, and just real quick, like, if you're not familiar with Yuzo Koshiro, he did a lot of the music for the Streets of Rage games. He also did some of the Shinobi games, and then later on he created a development company called Ancient, which developed the Beyond, among other titles, developed the Beyond Oasis or the Oasis series of games. There's Beyond Oasis and then the Legend of Oasis, and they were both like pretty impressive for the time that they were released in. Anyway, so but he's primarily a composer, or he was originally recognized as a composer, and he does some of the tracks here, and you can tell. Lords of Exile normally sells for $20, but it's currently on sale for $18, at least in the United States. and it just came out on Valentine's Day 2024. I bought it that night, played up to level 4, and here we are now. I would have ideally I would have liked to get this video out, a day or two sooner, but life, full-time job, all that usual stuff that tends to get in the way. So here we are Friday night. I was able to sit down and try to get this preview video out. And the purpose of that really is just to make, because there's not been really a lot of hype around this game. I mean, even the Curse of the Moon games had the benefit of being, marketing-wise at least, had the benefit of being associated with Ritual of the Night, which had, a fair amount of indie hype around it. I'm not sure that that's really the case with Lords of Exile, but there should be. There should be indie hype behind this game, because it is frickin' top tier if you're into this type of game. So anyways, look, if you're a fan of Curse of the Moon or Classic-vania, buy Lords of Exile immediately at any price. Honestly, what, you want us to save $2 with a sale now? That's fine, but is it necessary? No. $20, totally fair, but understand my perspective. I would say the exact same thing about both Curse of the Moon games, and they sell for, half of that price. But I think they're absolutely worth $20. I think this game is absolutely worth $20. If you're in the same boat about Curse of the Moon, just pause the video and buy this game, straight up. If you've been watching my channel for a while and you feel like you and I have, kind of a similar taste in games, or if you're just a fan of neo-retro or new old school games, however you want to phrase it, absolutely buy Lords of Exile immediately. This video, just to be clear, I know I'm really pouring on the praise for this game, so I just want to be totally transparent. This video is not sponsored. I have never been sponsored. Not to say I wouldn't be, but I haven't. It's a small channel. No developer, even an indie developer, does not give a shit about getting promoted on this little ass channel. I did not receive a free copy of this game for review. I'm just genuinely freaking excited about this game. Look at the size of my channel. No one's given me a thing. So congrats on that point, I guess. You have found a channel that doesn't have an agenda. When I started this channel, I just wanted to tell people about games that I like, and games that I didn't like, and, roughly more or less why I did or didn't like them, in either case. That's my whole agenda on this channel. Hey, here's what I played, here's what I thought of it. Anyways, look, thank you guys for watching, and I really appreciate all of my subscribers, and especially those of you who've been hanging in there for a while. Those of you who've been, subscribed to this channel for a year, 2 years, or beyond. I really appreciate that, man. Truly. This channel gives me, something to do, and in finishing a game and doing a review, or even a preview video like this, feels like a gaming achievement, since Nintendo opted to not feature achievements with the Switch, which, I kind of have mixed feelings about. On the one hand, achievements are nice. On the other hand, I think, again, that there is a purity to playing a game and just trying to do stuff in a video game because you're compelled to, because you want to, because it's a good time. That was the original intention, right? Anyway, so back to Lords of Exile. There is, as far as I've seen thus far, there is one difficulty level and very limited options. But I love that about this game. None of the OG NES classics had difficulty settings, or many, if any, options. Castlevania, Contra, Ninja Gaiden, etc. They were all like, hey, we made a masterpiece. Here it is. This is it. Take it or leave it. Maybe this is your thing. Maybe it isn't. But we had an insanely clear vision. We had an insanely clear vision of the game that we wanted to make, and this is it. You're welcome. And I just feel like you really got to respect the balls that somebody's got to have to do something like that in today's insanely competitive video game market. Just to even attempt that, but then to absolutely pull it off. This game is a 10 for me. It's a solid 10 out of 10. I'm not even finished with it yet. Like I said, I'm going to do a review in the future. The review is probably going to be a much shorter video. It's probably going to be along the lines of, yep, I stand by everything I said, or here are a few things I, want to update. But in my personal subjective opinion, Lords of Exile is everything I could possibly want in a neo-retro gaming experience for $20 freaking dollars. And I'm a weirdo, and I know this will never happen also because there's just not enough people, I don't think, that are into this level of neo-retro, but I would pay $50 for a game like this. I absolutely would. And $50 used to be, I'm sure you hopefully understand, $50 used to be more money back in the 80s when NES games were coming out, and people paid that happily. So to spend something like $50 on a game like this today, I would absolutely be on board with. But here's the great news. You're never going to have to, because these games, I don't think, will ever be popular enough for companies to charge that price for what is essentially an NES game. Anyways, guys, that's about it. I want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I do. If you thought this video was worth your time, I hope you'll subscribe and or tell a friend about it. Send them the link. It's www.youtube.com/@the-droids you're looking for. No apostrophe, and your is spelled correctly with Youre. Anyways, until next time, whenever that might be, bye-bye.